Oh, yeah, yeah. Right, yeah. So that, good. And the pleasure of that one is that you don't have to vote on that one today. Yeah, so you got another week to take it home and read it, ask questions. What do you think about it? You're out talking to people? Are you hearing good things? You hearing bad things? Good. Wonderful.
Our big first event last night at O'Malley was 65.
Terrific.
And I got our presentation. We gave them some free food and free bowling and shirts. And so, a lot of people walking around with shirts on now.
Terrific.
So, I feel good about it.
Good. I don't feel as good about the juvenile detention one.
I do not.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get to because people are like, oh.
Yeah, they gave a long presentation in council last night. I guess you might have caught some of that.
No, I was up at the event.
Oh, okay. All right, okay.
I heard the presentation.
Yeah, and I feel like the easiest way of explaining it is this is stuff we pay for anyway. So we're either going to raise your M&O property taxes to pay for it and spend more, or we're going to build the building we need and spend less. But when we do that, you have to vote on it, right? Yeah, if it's just the monthly cost, the annual cost of paying Tyler and Victoria and so on to take the kids.
For what they're paying.
Right. Then all I'm doing is I'm paying the same dollar amount or more, right? Just haul the kid out to Oklahoma City and let him stay there. But if I save money by building it here, I have to tell you I'm raising your taxes. But I'm actually saving on the other tax bill, right? So they have a hard challenge there. For a skeptical resident, that's like, what are you talking about, man? Yeah.
I think our last school one we didn't have a down to earth presentation. This one is very just in off the street from understand it. And we've gotten since it got Spanish community, we have Spanish English website, we've gotten everybody involved together. And I think
Do I get a packet? Because I'm going to flip them through it.
yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Do we know about our other elected
Yeah,
officials?
I got there at 4:50 yesterday. I'm going today.
No, okay. I'm going to get one thing. You're a winner, man. This is what it is.
Let's call this meeting to order. At this time, I would call to order the TIRZ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Power Center Board meeting on this April 23rd, 2025. Invocation. Would you like to lead us in invocation?
Certainly. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for everyone that's gathered here today. Please be with our city, our state, and our nation. Help us to make the decisions that you would have us make. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. We can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. One state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we can skip the visitors portion. Adoption of minutes. Anyone would like to accept the, or question anything about the last meeting's minutes?
Unless the young lady is just intent on doing it, I will.
All right.
What?
Make a motion to
Yeah,
accept
make a
them.
motion.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
All right, can I get a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I thought you were actually have a complaint or something. That's what I was waiting for. Okay. Discuss and consider the election board vice chair for TIRZ boards 1 through 5 and Power Center board.
For clarity, the city council assigns the chairman, because that's in the ordinance about the way that's done. And then it's up to the boards to select who's going to be the vice chairman. And that's just entirely a discretionary decision on y'all's part. And as a joke, I'll say it's traditional to assign jobs to people who didn't attend the meeting. But whoever y'all want to assign as being the vice chair is just y'all's discretion. It would just be a simple motion.
Anyone want to take a,
Yeah, I think
Step
Dana would
forward.
like to do that.
who?
Who?
Who am I saying?
You said it right, he said me. You know, it's usually the people that's been there the longest. I mean, that's what
I'm usually in favor of vice, but in this situation.
Okay, I guess. I mean, Terry hadn't been here yet.
Yeah, so.
You'll make a county guy, right?
I mean, well, Terry, I don't know. I haven't seen him yet. Kelly, I mean, he's, whatever. I mean, I don't mind.
Now,
but
Kelly's been here.
He's been
previously,
here.
Right?
Yeah.
Not that I make him on, but.
It's
Right.
up to y'all. I'm going to stay out of that one.
Well,
Whatever. I don't have anything else on my plate.
The
I
vice
think-
chair is traditionally only going to play a role whenever the chairman's unable to attend.
And you're pretty.
And so if Juan were to say, hey, Nicole, I can't be there, then Nicole would let whoever is selected as vice chair know, hey, we really need you there. And if there's any agenda notes or something that we need to coordinate ahead of time, then either Nicole or Dawn or myself would, follow up. So it's not a heavy role, but it's a role. So
do we got to vote on it or just,
it's a vote, yeah. Somebody would need to make a motion.
he made a motion? Was that your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I will second
Should've made a
that.
motion.
Who was the motion? Who was it for?
For yourself?
Oh,
Let the record show that Charles Whitaker motioned by motioning with his hand instead of by voice.
Pointing fingers. Okay. All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
That was close.
Okay, let's discuss and consider the TIRZ number 1 and Power Center resolution supporting an entertainment center project.
Okay, so I'm going to do the map first, so I will ask Nicole to go over to agenda item page 20. So we're going to go behind Film Alley, and you can see on this aerial that you've got the Magnolia apartment complex, you've got the little run of big box stores there, and this is basically showing you where, you know, we end at Petco. There's a drive between Petco and Film Alley, so you can see the Film Alley project there. So what about the lake, and what could we do that would be beautiful and wonderful at the lake? The idea is that Film Alley, Schulman Partners, will build a entertainment event venue on the land directly behind Film Alley. And if you go 2 more pages in your packet, you're going to see a very pretty looking site plan. The site plan shows the overall layout, so now we kind of rotated our vision here. You've got Film Alley just off the bottom of the page, and you can see that that sort of black line with intersecting brown there, that's a bridge going across the drainage. Okay, so we have a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant that we've already set up to pay for some park improvements out in that area, and that's already paying for the bridge from the Film Alley parking lot across the drainage. If I look and say, okay, what do I do once I cross the drainage? You would be able to turn right, so you're going to end up going a little bit north, and then you get into this proposed city park. Again, we have a grant and some developer contributions to develop that park, and we've got room there, about 1.5 acres, not quite 1.5 acres. That's enough room for a playground, a little expansion zone for a concert lawn. The thought is to stick some additional pickleball courts down there, and then you can do a little bit more active play, and then you've got room for men's and women's restroom down there. So a lot of that developed under park grant, a lot of that developed under developer contributions. So as the various apartment complexes have come in, we've negotiated for them to be putting money into that. So whenever the Schulman Partners guys came in, they said, well, we're thinking about doing this concept somewhere in our system. They own, I think, 6 different film alleys. They do business in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. They're headquartered out of Weatherford. And they said, hey, we're looking for a location to do a indoor-outdoor event venue. You can be indoor or under a pavilion. You can see the concert. It's a restaurant 365 days a year. If they don't have an active musical act going, then they're just playing music, and they might show you a sports game. They might show you a college football game. They might show you a World Series game, whatever it might be. And it's hard to give an example of this. Some people have said, well, gosh, I've been to that place called Standard Service in Heath. Is it like that? Yeah, kind of, but a lot bigger in terms of the outdoor space for a real live concert. The design they've got would put 1,000 people in their concert area, and they would be able to rent our park from time to time and expand and have another 1,000 people enjoying the concert within that zone. So you got a 2,000 person concert opportunity here, and a very good restaurant, 2-story approach to the restaurant, so they got more seating that overlooks the concert venue location. One side of it, obviously, is the lake, so that's really nice. You can go out, you walk around the trail around the lake, get some exercise, come back, have dinner, enjoy the concert. So we think it's kind of an overall really neat thing to do. City Council did approve putting some funds into it last night, and so that's going to include some of the sales tax generated out of the project, mixed beverage tax, but it's just not huge, but on this, it'll be probably our biggest mixed beverage payer on mixed beverage taxes. They wanted some support on the marketing incentive. We're going to be working with them to put a billboard right off where it says American Way on this map, just to the, I guess I'll call it west and south of there. There'll be a brand new billboard that will advertise city messages as well as
Moby's messages, as well as some of the other businesses out in that area. So that's a great win for us because we've wanted something on I-20 that would give us some labeling and some advertising. So what is the TIRZ board being asked to do? You're not being asked to do all of it. If you read through the details of this, you'll see that we set up a hotel event center fund some number of years ago, and we've been collecting hotel event center money for several years in that. So we've got adequate funds for the big payments out of this, but part of the negotiations were to also provide back to the investors 75% of the maintenance and operation only city tax dollars. So a lot of times when we're doing these TIRZ negotiations, based on the way the TIRZ number 1 was set up, we all kind of wish it wasn't set up like this, but it is what it is. It's from 2006. When it was set up, it also included a portion of the INS property taxes. We don't do that anymore. We've kind of learned our lesson that was not the best way to write a TIRZ to begin with. But that's how TIRZ 1 was set up. But we've bracketed that in this economic development deal to say only the maintenance and operation property taxes, limited at 75% for a 10-year period. Not including the county property taxes, that's fine because, you know, we want the TIRZ to have some of its own revenue to make decisions about spending in the future. So all you're voting on here is letting the city council do its own business, which is all the other incentives, but going ahead and including that 10-year 75% of city M&O. And so that's the resolution. You guys get to play a small part in a larger incentive where the city's got other sources of funds. But like I said, we wanted to bring it forward to you guys as well.
Any questions? Dina?
Of course.
Please, yes.
So I noticed, I scanned it, but
Yep.
I saw it's like about $500 million, right? There was 300 and then 200.
Yeah, so and again, that's, where is it easiest to read this and get us all on the same page? If I go over to city obligations, that's where you're going to find most of the money. So look at that. Nicole's already there. So let's just walk through them. The first one is the reimbursement that talks about the mixed beverage taxes. So that's item B. Item C is the 1 cent sales tax. After that is D. D is what you're voting on, which is just the property tax part of it. E is the marketing incentive. That's $45,000. We have ample funds for that out of what we have available in both the Hotel Event Center Fund, hotel occupancy taxes, and also the new taxes generated from this project. So now let's talk about where are we getting the bulk money, right? You have $500,000 here for the parking incentive, right? We need to build a parking lot for the park. So we had that cost anyway, right? We knew we needed to spend that money from somewhere. The authorization resolution passed by City Council said take that money out of the Hotel Event Center Fund. We've got, at the end of FY25, about $2 million available in that fund, and we can spend down on that and reduce our fund balance in the Hotel Event Center Fund. And that's where F, the parking payments, would come from. I flip over the page, and I've got the reimbursement on the $100,000 on AV improvements. Again, that's by council decision last night out of the Hotel Event Center Fund. And then you've got the $85,000 on some of the design services. If they spend money on design services that we request, they'll receive a reimbursement of that. That $85,000 is also out of the Hotel Event Center Fund. And finally, the $300,000 under I, that's if they elect to and meet the conditions for building the billboard. So in my mind, what's nice about that is that the agreement would call for an arrangement where, and I'm estimating the cost of the billboard. Let's say the billboard is $900,000, right? So that means we spent a third of the money. Under the way that we would be managing that program, again, Hotel Event Center spends a third of the money. That means that the city would get a third of the advertising rights on the billboard. The billboard would identify in some way to be determined, City of Terrell, and then it's a dynamic screen, right? So we could get a third of the messages maybe Moby's is getting a percentage, one of the other businesses out there getting another one, and we'll get that into perpetuity without having to pay the maintenance costs on the facility. And so we like that very much, to not have to be in the middle of maintaining it or anything like that. I think maybe the other thing to say about that is we have already a location identified, because the zoning associated with the project, the Crossroads project overall, established that location probably in 2016 or 2017. That location was picked out. So the big bulk numbers that come out of this are out of the Hotel Event Center Fund, and then the, if you perform, you earn your money back, is the TIRZ side of it with the 75%.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if no other questions, can I get a motion to approve item number 6.2?
Make a motion to approve item number 6.2 is written.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item number 7.1. Discuss TIRZ 2 updates.
I'm going to help Jana by saying that we actually combined the next two agenda items, TIRZ 2 update, TIRZ 4 update, and so if it's okay with the chairman, she can do both updates.
Of course, please.
Okay. Good afternoon. We're going to start off, this is our latest and greatest development process that is between North Spur and Arboretum Developments. Our North Spur development is considered TIRZ 4, and our Arboretum is considered TIRZ number 2. If you'll go on to the next slide. Right now, you're seeing all the TIRZ districts. The light purple between US 80 going southeast is the purple. That is formerly the Fairfield Mud that we are presenting and wanting to create TIRZ number 5. That's gone to City Council, and we're hoping to have final approval with you all today, and then also with City Council. So that is TIRZ 5 area. If you look the dark blue where North Spur development is, that's considered TIRZ number 4. The red is TIRZ number 2, and then the purple in the middle is TIRZ 1. And then the yellow is TIRZ 3. Okay, next page. All right, this is our TIRZ number 5, and that shows you the limits of the Fairfield Mud. You see US 80, and then down at the bottom you see Interstate 20. So that tells you how large that future zoning district is going to be. Next page. All right, so now we're going to talk about North Spur. That's in our TIRZ number 4, and these are just some of the latest and greatest. Everyone knows where North Spur is, correct? West US 80. Okay, so I don't know if you read it in the paper or heard it on the news, but it was recently sold to Starwood Capital Group and Starwood Land. Phase 1A and 1C are under construction. Today, we've already granted about 10 building permits. They've got their model home up. Deanna was saying that she was trying to set an appointment to go out to look at that model home. But if you go in, you'll see all the infrastructure, the entrance signs. So it's really going to be a nice development. Phase 1A is going to have 240 single-family residents. Phase 1C is 141 single-family residents. You're asking where's Phase 1B? Why did we skip that? That's got some mixed uses in it. So the previous developer, Hines, chose not to do them in order. So that's why they're taking care of trying to sell lots first. All infrastructure has been completed within Phase 1A and has been accepted by Planning and Zoning. And then this is the layout of Phase 1A and 1C. Next page. All right, then we can, then this is I'm sorry, this is the large scale of the North Spur development. So the properties that are in the yellow and to the green that are east there, that's their light industrial section within some of the flooding area that shows that signifies there. And so we are working with a developer that was brought in by Heinz by the name of Van Trust, and they're looking at doing a logistics, about 3 buildings right now, and those blocks that you're seeing there are the placement of where that logistics. Don't know what type of end user it's going to be, but they're going to build the structures per our codes, and then we'll determine then an end user at a later time. Next page. Next is Arboretum 2. That's in our TIRZ number 2. The infrastructure is currently in process. You're probably gone out on 148 going south and notice all the equipment out moving dirt and seeing concrete trucks coming in. So they are currently working on that infrastructure. Phase 1 construction plat was approved by Planning and Zoning as well as City Council, and that's 512 single-family residents. Water lines are complete, and we look to have the sewer line installation starting next month. And then here is the layout of this development here. And I will close if anybody has any questions.
This is Arboretum. Oh, I see.
Yes, Yes.
Nicole, you could probably find it real easy. One of the school sites, let's say the bond election passes, one of the school sites that they'll consider is opening up that school site right there. The advantage of that as a school site is that the developer has to build the roads, the water, the sewer, the drainage, and grade the land and and get that all ready to go. So that's the good news part of it. Bad news part of it is it's phase 2, so we're not sure what year that particular parcel will be ready, right? So if voters approve it, I think Georgianne would prefer to move into whatever they approve in 2027, and it may be that that pad site's not ready till 2028, right? So you'd have some issues there if the school did elect to try to use that. But there is enough construction going on now to let us know that they're going to be fairly close with their timing on making that ready. But there's other school sites under consideration as well, so.
What would determine the if it's elementary, high school, or middle school?
That's only the size for an elementary school, yeah. So typically, Georgianne would ask me to try to negotiate 16 acres for an elementary school, and we tend to do okay in those discussions. Where it gets thorny, like, for example, the Evening Star project that was recently in the news, the council approved. They're doing 16 acres, and that's a project on State Highway 34, just to the north of town. So that's a second elementary school site. That one's a little further off in terms of their development phasing. And then if they needed a middle school, which there is funding to purchase middle school, it's really hard to convince a developer to donate 50 acres for a middle school. That's a tough one. And then we don't have a high school on the horizon, right? But if you ever wanted a high school, these days, most school districts would want 100 acres for a high school. So it's a very, that's a tough one there. So, but anyway, 16 acres here, just in elementary school. Yeah.
Quick question. So you said planning and zoning approved this. Did city council approve it, or they haven't voted yet?
On this one here, yeah, this is all done and in the bag. Yeah, this is approved by
That's
city
what I thought.
council, and yeah,
Okay.
Okay. Those are just updates. We try to keep you well informed on the different projects that we are working on, and those are just 2 in the implementation phase.
Okay, moving into 7.3, discuss a resolution approving the final TIRZ number 5, project plan and finance plan.
Okay, so I have a, I don't know, 20 or 30 page document, which I'm not going to read to you. So let's talk about what it does and how to interpret what you're looking at when you take a look at it. The project plan, finance plan is a animal of state law. And so, again, what are we doing when we create a tax increment refinance zone? We're saying I got a base level of property values out there. All of this is in ag, very little property taxes being generated. So TIRZ number 5 is the land area that Janice showed you, 2,600 acres. It's 100% owned by Hunt and Petroleum Oil. It's Fairfield mud. That land, the owner, Hunt Petroleum, came forward and said, hey, we'd like to eventually annex that 2,600 acres and get it into the city limits. We said, great, sounds wonderful. What are you planning on doing on it? And in this case, because it's predominantly a project which was going to be light industrial, we didn't pursue talking to the county about it. We've often obviously asked the county to participate. In this case, we didn't. If we're dealing with residential issues, we knock on the county's door and say, help us on on that, because that's where the county saves money, right? The county doesn't have to send a sheriff and so on down the line if we are moving residential from being county to being city. So in this case, we didn't do that. It's all city, okay? Only city maintenance and operations dollars are involved in this particular one. So the idea of project and finance plan was originally based under state law on the idea that you would borrow a lot of money as a city against a plan like this. So let's pretend that you said, well, I'm a city and I'm really aggressive and I'm going to put a TIRZ in place. I'm going to borrow $100 million and build roads, water, sewer, and whatever. You would need a plan like this in order to prove out that those were good infrastructure investments and the new buildings that came in would be worthwhile. Well, that's actually the way state law was constructed, but it's not typical, right? Because most cities are like us. They say, well, I'm not borrowing that money on guessing that a bunch of buildings will come in. I need the developer to build a bunch of buildings, and then we'll phase in reimbursements on the infrastructure. So we push the risk across the negotiating table for the developer to take the risk, and this is sort of their way of proving out that they think that they'll get the performance out of it. So we adopt it, and it has to be approved by the TIRZ board, and it has to be approved by the city council. The TIRZ board, you guys saw this before while we were setting it up as making the TIRZ get created, and you saw the name preliminary project and finance plan on it. All we've done now is advance it to the point where we're calling it the final one. So let's talk about a couple of the major exhibits in it, because that's where you're going to get most of the meat of the content. If you go over to page 37 of the packet, then you're going to see, boom, there's the map again. I turn over from the map and I get, okay, non-project costs. That is under the nomenclature we're going to use here. We're going to build $2.1 billion worth of taxable value, okay? And we're going to build $411 million worth of property, of new roads, water, and infrastructure. So move on to the next page. Exhibit C, list of project costs. You've got on-site public improvements, road, water, wastewater, drainage, franchise utilities, landscape parks, trails, contingency, and total there of $339 million. On the off-site public improvement side, you've got $72 million worth of off-site things. And the idea there is you're capturing things like the relocation of 429 over to match up. So 429 is continuous, build whatever you need to build there. Make sure that you take that new arterial that's on our thoroughfare plan that we just approved and swing it down through the Hunt Fairfield project so that if I exit this was our big point with the thoroughfare. If I exit on Wilson Road, I've got one road to be on that just winds its way neatly right up over to 429. And that's where we're trying to get with that so that I can go north and get through the city and move lots of roadways. That actually takes the traffic off of the existing 429. So all of the neighbors out in that zone who came forward to the neighboring project here, the Vulcan project, and said, hey, we don't like the Vulcan project, if we had the arterial in place that's contemplated by this TIRZ, let's say I was 20 years from now and that arterial had already gotten built, then we could say, oh yeah, those Vulcan trucks aren't going to take 429, they're going to take the new arterial. What's my problem? I haven't built the arterial yet. I need the developer of the Hunt Fairfield project to spend the next 10, 15 years slowly getting that road built and then slowly getting reimbursed from the new property taxes on the Fairfield Mud District in order to pay for that road. So that's the list of projects. If I flip over to the next page on this, I've got the estimated timeline of building those projects. Okay, that's interesting, but it basically shows, oh, well, what if we spent our money under this period of time building things? Then I get another chart, and this one is talking about the values that go in there, and man, it's hard to read, but you can look at that and say, oh, okay, I'm going to add new value. When am I going to add new value? Oh, the very first thing I get is 935,000 square foot of distribution center. So that's the 2026 row on the very top, right? And so I say, oh, okay, I put $935,000 worth of value, worth of distribution center out there. I multiply that by a dollar value per square foot. I've added a certain value. Ta-da, now I know that I have increased my taxable value from 14,000 to 71 million. Now I'm creating increment. Now I've got property taxes that are going to go into it because the incremental value the first year is $71 million. That $71 million gets multiplied by the city M&O tax rate of 0.6142, and we take 80% of it because it's industrial, and we put it into the TIRZ, and that can be used to pay off the public infrastructure investments. Okay, so that's a quick way of saying it. By the time I get to, let's say, year 19 here, so I look on 2044, zero residential built that particular year. 1,997,226 square feet of new light industrial. Multiply that by a value, and I get $215 million of new property value added in the year 2019, and that brings the new taxable value up to $2.4 billion. So that's kind of how you would read that and follow along with that. And that's the base chart that you're using to decide, am I really going to generate enough taxable value out here and have the incremental value necessary to pay off the investments in our public infrastructure. So the next page is an even more detailed breakdown of that, which I will spare you. And after that, I've got proposed uses of the property. So you can see, again, same map that we've had at City Council. The blue is the new industrial or distribution center. You can see I-20 down there. You can see the black line is that reroute of the arterial that we'd like to do. And then you've got some residential on the very, very far northeast corner of the project. And the map, again, on the next page shows you, this is Exhibit G now. There you go. Exhibit G shows, okay, how do I follow along on that and what's eligible? You can do the interchange of 80 and the railroad tracks and 429. You can do the interchange with I-20 and Airport Road, where that's all coming together. And obviously that new arterial is an eligible expense. After that, you get, again, for wonderful reading, all of the property description information. So again, what's a role of the TIRZ board? Before you spend money out of your TIRZ, you've got to adopt a final project finance plan, which is basically proving up that the general idea and the overall intent isn't out of whack. I've seen these before, not in this city, but in other cities, where they'll say, well, I'm going to build 20 residential houses, and I'm going to use the property taxes on that to pay off my $100 million road. No, you're not. You know, that's not the way the math works. You've got to have an ample amount of new property value to pay for the new infrastructure. If we wanted to build more than $411 million in new infrastructure, I'm not sure where the money'd come from, right? Because we're only projecting to have about enough money in order to pay for about $411 million in new public infrastructure out in that zone. And it is 4 square miles of new development, so that is going to take a whole bunch of road, water, sewer, drainage, and you know, it's going to take a long time to get all that built. So there's a quick overview. The idea would be to have a resolution on top of this at your next meeting, so you guys could say, hey, we recommend this to the city council. Any questions about that? All right.
Did you already include 7.4 in that long?
You want me to cover that one too, huh? So, look how much more document I have for your enjoying and your reading pleasure. I won't do it to you, but what do you have? You have a development agreement that was already approved by a resolution by City Council. City Council looked at a preliminary version of the development agreement, preliminary version of the TIRZ agreement back in January. And the City Council said, that's great, you guys go run with that, finish negotiating that. From a negotiating standpoint, I would say, hey, we actually did pretty well. This is a business that had no requirement to annex into the city, and therefore no reason to pay impact fees. Impact fees could have been collected of $0. We negotiated for that to be a $3.7 million contribution to the city. That's great. City Council will be able to use that to do any variety of things, and they'll pick infrastructure projects to build off of that. So that's a great, healthy thing. That'll help our water pipes, sewer pipes, and so on down the line. We had already negotiated that it would be 80% on industrial. We kept the residential down to 30% because we have city services to provide for the residents who might live out there. We need that number to be rather low whenever we do a residential TIRZ. Most of the rest of the terms are just things that you're trying to look for to protect the city. It's a 40-year life. They cannot do what's called pledging the debt. So what does that even mean? They're going to have a municipal utility district still on this land. Municipal utility district will be their vessel to borrow money. So the developer, Hunt Petroleum, will spend, $10 million on a road, water, sewer, whatever. They will get the building built. They will let the building pay property taxes, and they'll say, okay, municipal utility district, you go borrow the money to pay us back for our public infrastructure, right? So the MUD signs a separate agreement with the developer and moves through that process. So that's all fine and good. That's their business. That's perfectly great under state law. The MUD can do that. The MUD will be another taxing entity on top of this land. But one way the MUD gets money is the tax increment refinance zone. When they do that, can send money to them. So obviously they're planning on doing that, and that's contemplated in here, and that flow of funds is all embedded in this TIRZ agreement. If I am doing a bad job as a city manager, I tell them they can pledge our revenues from the TIRZ. That means when they go out to the bond market, they are telling the people who buy the MUD bonds that we're pledging that revenue to them, and come hell or high water, we're making those payments. We don't want that, right? Because that puts our credit rating at stake for what the MUD might do. We don't want to do that. We've eliminated any language like that from this agreement because we want to financially protect the city. Instead, what we do is we say, hey, these are contract-only payments. If you fail to perform under your contract, you don't get that money. When a bond buyer in a MUD bond sale reads that language, they know there's more risk there, and they're going to charge a higher interest rate on that bond than if they had a pledge from a city. So it's a big deal in the finance markets because it's changing the interest rate that the MUD is paying for all of this, and it's a higher interest rate because we're not willing to backstop the risk of it. So there's all sorts of things like that that are embedded in some of the details of it. If you flip through this and you say, no boycott on Israel? What are we talking about? No boycott on Israel? State law has maybe 7 or 8 provisions that have to be in every development agreement that every city does. They update them all the time, so I don't try to keep them memorized, but they're things that you would imagine. There's firearm provisions in there. You can't be, and by the way, let's just face it, this is all because of Austin passing weird laws and doing strange things. And this is a way for the legislature to say, no, we're going to bracket this in. You don't get to use your municipality to do these kind of oddball things that some very small number of cities in the state have done that the legislature considered to be abusive of their rights as cities. So that's all in there as well. Try to get the exhibits all right. I can tell you that Chris Knapp and Jana do a wonderful job with making sure that if you dig deep into here, you see a couple of schematics of their layout. Let's see if I can say this. Tomorrow at Planning and Zoning, we finally get to say the name of the business that is coming to town, right? It's under this code name of Spitfire. And under our confidentiality agreement with them, we finally get to say that name out loud at the P&Z meeting tomorrow. Jana will be the first person to finally get to just rip that out and say that. But the fact of the matter is, we've done a really good job in-house of negotiating that's going to look good from Airport Road and be part of a good-looking long-term industrial park. It will be the best-looking building out on Airport, and it will be set back very substantially from Airport Road, which will, can make it continue to have a little bit of put the park in the business park, right? There'll be some pretty good-looking green on the front side of this thing, and we think that's a long-term good. That also helps them with their queuing of their trucks. We obviously see in other places where, for example, even our Walmart distribution hub, one thing is the enforcement issue of don't park on Apache Trail. That we manage, and that we sometimes don't manage as well as we should. Overnight parking is not allowed. But what bothers me is when Walmart says, well, we just have a bunch of trucks in line on Apache Trail, and they're waiting to queue in, right? They're using it's not the truck driver using the road to sleep, right? That I can ticket. But if they're waiting in line to get through the gate at Walmart, that's a huge problem, and I can't necessarily say to them, oh, here's your traffic ticket, right? Because they're dutifully waiting in line to get into the distribution center. That's not going to happen on Airport Road to any near the same world because they're building enough queuing to get in there, and that's because Chris and Jana made sure to work with them to make sure that they had enough entry lanes going into the facility. So traffic management's a big deal, and we're glad that was included in the development agreement as well. So just structurally speaking, the development agreement has an attachment. The attachment is the TIRZ agreement. Your role is looking at the TIRZ agreement side. I gave you the development agreement and the TIRZ agreement for full disclosure, but the TIRZ agreement is the technical thing that you do need to make a motion on at your next meeting and make a recommendation to council on. So there you go. Yes, ma'am.
We ready to go ahead and move into?
I don't even have an executive session for you.
Oh,
You are
okay.
good to go, and as far as I'm concerned, you can gavel out angrily or happily, whatever you like.
All right.
All right, it was a smile.